Hello, thanks for coming to my channel. My name is Rachel. I am here to talk about some Christian books that I have here. But first, I just wanted to say I haven't been online for a while. This summer, I basically took the summer off from doing too much reading. I read this summer, but not that much because I had 4 kids I'm taking care of, so I was busy, dealing with them. Yeah, I'm just trying to get back on and do something that I enjoy doing for myself. So, first, what I want to do is I'm going to be doing a book challenge that Paperback and Ponytail channel is doing, and it's called Journey Through the Bible. So yeah, I thought that was a kind of cool challenge to do, so I'm going to try to attempt to do it. And then I'm just going to go through some books here that I've read this summer that I've really enjoyed, Christian books that I've read this summer that I've really enjoyed, and some books that I've recently bought. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so first I got a copy off of Paperbooks and Ponytails. So the first prompt is Journey Through the Bible. Where are you going? And she has 4 options, and they are the Garden of Eden, which is nature on the cover. They have Bethlehem, which is a house on the cover. The Promised Land book, a book that you promised to read, and then Jericho, a book with noise, like a lot of people are talking about. So I got 2 books for this prompt, and the first one is The Choosing by Rachel Decker. And I've listened to a little bit of this book on audio book, and I love her dad's books, Ted Decker. So I've listened to this book a little bit on audio, but it was so good. I was like, no, I want to get the copy of it so that I can read more thoroughly and understand exactly what's happening in the story. But yeah, so it's Bethlehem house on the cover. There's some buildings, and these are apartments, I'm going to say, so their house is on the cover, so that's covering that prompt. But I really wanted to read this book. It's a dystopian Christian fiction. She is supposed to, her whole life she's raised to marry, and only a select few women get married to a select few men who can marry, or the elite in their city. And so she's supposed to get married because she's one of the top girls, and she doesn't get chosen. And so things go down from there. And yeah, it's really interesting. I like the story. It's got love in it, love story in it, romance in it. Yeah, so I recommend this because I have heard a little bit of it. I haven't finished it though, but I'm going to go ahead and finish it on my own copy. So recommend that book. And then the next prompt is The Promised Land, book you promised to read. And I had a friend who loaned me this book. So yeah, this book is called Hearts of Fire, 8 women in the underground church and their stories of costly faith. So my friend loaned me this book, and I said, yep, I'll read it. So I need to get this back to her anyways, but just sounds like I've heard really great things about it. So looking forward to reading this book. And this is a book that I promised to read, like The Promised Land. Okay, the next book, I have so many books over here. Okay, the next book I read is Who Are You Going to Meet? And the options are Jesus. It's a book with food or drink on the cover. Joseph, a book with many colors on the cover, or Peter, water on the cover. And the book that I choose is Destined for You. I'm actually close to being done with this book. Destined for You by Tracy Peterson. And this is a really good book. I am really enjoying this book. I am close to being done. Okay, so Glory Ann lives up in Minnesota during the 1800s, and she lives in a fishing town on Lake Superior, and one in Duluth, Minnesota. And one of the reasons I got this book is because I'm from an area that's really close in the UP of Michigan that is on Lake Superior. So I thought that would be really cool to listen to her story. But she lives in the fishing town in the 1800s, and her mother and two siblings had died of some kind of disease that was going around at that time. And so they died, so they had a lot of grief in their family. And then some other bad stuff happens, I don't want to say, but some other bad stuff happens, and then she starts to question her faith in God. Like, God, how can you let all this horrible things happen? Where are you? If you're in control, why are you allowing these things to happen? And so it's a really moving book about how people can get through like tremendous suffering and still have faith in God. It's actually much easier for you when you're going through so much suffering. It's much easier for you when you're going through that suffering to have faith in God. So I recommend this book, Destined for You. And there is, I believe, 3 other books in this series. And I think I'm going to actually read these. I don't really like reading series, but I'm really interested in reading the next ones. So, so that's water on the cover for that one. The next one, oh, this is also where you're going. No, who you're going to meet. Okay, so the next one is Pharaohs Daughter, a book with adoption. And I have children who are adopted, and I also have brothers and sisters who are adopted. And so adoption's like really close to home for me, and like means a lot, and you know. So the book I chose, which is, here it is. It's not a fiction book, but I'm going to put it in here anyways. It's called The Connected Child. And there's quite, a few people who wrote this book. But I got this at a adoption conference one year, and I just haven't read it. And I've heard really good things about it from Christian women. So I definitely want to read this book, because I really don't think I've read a book about adoption from a Christian person's point of view, and I think that makes a huge amount of difference. So yeah, this is the book for Pharaoh's Daughter, so we'll see which one I choose to read. Who are you going to meet? So we'll see. Okay, so then there's one with Daniel, animal on the cover. There's one with Ruth, a love story, and there's one with Esther, a book with royalty. So yeah, I don't know. It's either Destined for You or The Adoption Connection for this one. The next prompt is Witness an Event. Noah's Ark, a pair on the cover. Tower of Babel, translated book. Sorry. The Pyramids, slavery. Solomon's Temple, foil on the cover. David and Goliath, a book over 400 pages. Birth of Jesus, star on the cover, or in the title. And Jesus' Resurrection, New Christian. So what I'm going to go with this prompt is A Voice in the Wind. And I noticed that I cannot remember the girl's name from Paperback and Ponytails. Is it Christy? I don't know. Okay, so she is actually reading this book too in her Christian book club, which is so funny because I picked this up just a couple of weeks ago when I was on vacation, and by Francis Rivers, and because I've heard a lot of really good things about this book. It's so thick. It's definitely over 400 pages, like 500 almost. Um, I've read 2 chapters now. It's so good. It really, really is. It's one of those that people talk about, and you're like, you need to read this. This is kind of one of those books. At first, when I was first starting to read it, like the first page or 2 or 3, it was going a lot into like the Roman, like the Roman rulers and who was taking over this this city and what was happening with this commander, and so it was like a war tactic things, and I was like, oh, I don't like that. But then once you get through the war tactic things, then you get to the storyline about a girl who I think her name is Hadassah. She is in Rome when Rome's about to fall, right after Jesus came and rose. And her father was a follower of Jesus who was actually healed as a child. What was he healed? Oh, he died. And Jesus came and rose him from death. And so he's a very strong believer in Jesus, and he goes and preach in the Roman cities, and his daughter's like, please don't go, I don't want you to die, I don't want them to kill you. And he's like, I have to go preach the word of God. And one day he just doesn't come home because they probably killed him for preaching in the streets, and then so she's left with her family there in the house, and there's war going around, and eventually her family dies around her, and she's taken into captivity by the Romans. So yeah, it's just really interesting. Her faith is wavering because she's seen all this destruction around her, and she's like, God, why did you leave me, who does not have strong faith, but yet like took my family, who's so like faithful and who is willing to die for you? Why did you do that? And so I'm so excited about reading this book. It's really good so far. Highly recommend this. But it's going to take me a minute to get like a long time to get through this book. So okay, so the next prompt that she has on here is something has happened. In the Lion's Den, a book with danger. Thrown in jail, spiritual warfare, which I really like books about spiritual warfare. Thrown into the fiery furnace, too hot to handle, like an award-winning book. And be swallowed by a fish. Hard to swallow topic. Tough topic. So I said that I could also do the heart-to-heart one for that prompt, but what I think I'm going to actually do is to fulfill I got so many books I'm searching. Okay, so this one right here is called The Hidden Places by Corey Ten Boom, and I'm not sure, she might actually be in this book. I don't know. I'll have to check and see. This is about a woman who lived during the Jewish Holocaust, and she transformed people's lives like from Jews to Christians. I believe they said that she had converted like 800 Jews or something like that at that time. So I picked this up at the library, and the reason, it's a pretty small book, the reason I picked it up is because we went to the Creation Museum and the Ark Encounter a few weekends ago, and they were talking about her, and I was not able to sit and watch the speech that they were doing because my kids went sat through it, but I was super interested, so I was like, I want to know more about this woman, Corey ten Boom, and yeah, so I picked it up at the library so I could figure out more about her, because I really don't know much about her. I just saw what I saw on the slides there at the what is it, the Creation Museum. So, all right, so those two books are the tough topic books. The next one is How Do You Escape? Pray and Jesus Will Help You. Reader's Choice. Okay, so it's Reader's Choice, but I kind of wanted to read a book that was like about helping you. And I don't know. I don't have one. Hold on a second. Okay, so I think I'm going to double up on that one because I have a ton of books here. A ton, so I don't really want to add more. And I can't really think of one that I'm like, ooh, I want to read that really bad. So, Pray and Jesus Will Help You, Reader's Choice. So the one that I'm choosing for help is The Connected Child, a book about adoption, to help me with my adopted children because I love them so much. I would say that they are harder in many ways than your children that are born to you, just because of everything that they've been through, everything that they're going through, all the trauma they've been through. So because of that, I'm going to read this book. Okay, next. So that fulfills all the books for that challenge. And I'm excited to do this with Paperback and Ponytails, and hopefully other people join the challenge too. Okay, so I'm going to talk about some books that I have read or am reading. So the first book that I finished reading is called The Huntress of Thorn Forest, and this is by Melanie Dickerson. And I got this for my birthday a few months ago, and so I'm reading through these. I really liked these books. Let's see here. So she is I always forget the person's name who's like the main character. Okay, Odette is her name. So Odette she is living with her uncle, and she was like adopted by her uncle because I believe her family died, and she has a heart for children, like orphans, and people who are starving. And so she goes into Thorn Forest and hunts there, which is illegal because it's the king's forest. And if she gets caught hunting the king's deer and stuff like that, she can be killed, actually. So she is kind of like Robin Hood, I think, anyways, where she's like stealing from the rich, giving to the poor, and so she hunts at night, she kills the animals, she gives it to the poor. And then she meets a man who is the forester of the king's forest, and her uncle's like, you need to find a husband, you need to settle down. And so she is trying to look for someone to marry, and she finds the forester, and she really likes him. Then there's another guy who's trying to, all that kind of stuff. So it's a great story. It's I love the parts about like reading the Bible and how like back in this time period, like I don't know, the Middle Ages, how they wouldn't have had the whole Bible. They would have been like wealthy to have the book of Matthew or the book of Luke, and I just think that's really interesting. So yeah, I really recommend this book. It's fun, and it's got some good faith in there. I do want to say before I go on that this book, I don't think I mentioned this right here. Destined for You. This book has so much faith in it. It's so faith filled, so good. Anyways, all right. Don't go backwards. Okay, so the next book I just finished reading is called The Story Peddler, and this is by Lindsay A. Franklin. Okay, so this book, let me tell you, the storyline was good in this book. It was not my favorite though, and the main reason is just because it's classified as a Christian book, but there is very little faith in this book, I would say. The only aspects of faith in this book was when they were talking about like the town believed in like the goddesses and the story about the goddesses, and they had this whole story, mythical story about the goddesses, and then people were like, no, don't believe in the goddesses, believe in the creator. So beyond that though, there was really nothing, no Christian like aspects, and so I was kind of just when I read a book, I want to read it for a purpose, because you like put so much energy into reading a book, and so I want there to be fulfillment as I'm reading the book, not just a story, but a story about Jesus and God, and just have my spiritual cup filled, along with like wanting to hear a good story. And so I wouldn't say that this is a bad story. It's pretty interesting. This girl, she can't remember her name again, Tanwin, she has this ability. This is a fantasy book, so she has this ability to tell stories, and she's a storyteller, and she can, and as she's telling a story, she has like these ribbons coming out of her fingertips, and like, so if she's telling a story about a boat, the ribbons will make like a boat and like the sea and stuff like that. And so she goes from town to town, and this book is kind of set in like the Middle Ages period also. So she goes from town to town, and she peddles these stories to people. And after the story is done, the story gets crystallized, and that story gets to go to that person. So it becomes like a little knick-knack or something like that. And they get to take that story home with them. So she is going from town to town doing these stories, and she's getting paid while she's doing the stories. And she can only tell certain stories that are approved by the king, the crown. And so she cannot tell stories or anything else besides what the crown has allowed her to say. And if she goes beyond that, then she can like get jailed or fined or even killed. So one day she's telling these stories, and she starts having these feelings inside, and stuff comes out of her, and she starts saying things that are like against the king, and saying that the king has lied about things, and so she's on the runs because the king's guards are after her. So these people come pick her up, and they're also people who are like rebels against the king, and they want to like help her and help her learn her skill better and more, and they tell her like don't like, if you feel like this sense of like a story that you need to tell, let that out, or else it can hurt you in the future. So anyways, she's, the king's after her, and she's with these rebels, and so yeah, that's all I'll say about that story. But I think it's an interesting storyline. Like, it's interesting, It's definitely, sorry, I'm really thirsty. So it's definitely a clean book. I felt like I was just waiting for like the Jesus the Jesus aspect of the story to open up. And I'm like, there's so many ways where I'm like, ooh, I think they're gonna put Jesus in this book like this or like that. And it just never came. And so that was just disappointing to me. They have 3 other books, I believe, which may go more into that, but I just don't really think I'm gonna read the other 2. Not a bad book. I'm not saying it's bad. It's a good story. But for me, I want more Jesus in my book. So, all right. Next, the next book I am reading is, I will say that I've seen on a lot of channels, and I think this is such a great thing, that they are starting to do I believe they're sending Galatians as a YouTuber group, and I thought that was really great that they're doing that. For me, I'm actually already starting a book on my own, and I have this guide to go with it. It's Habakkuk, Even If, a story of Habakkuk, and this is from the Daily Grace Company, and so it tells you read this chapter in Habakkuk, and then they ask you questions about it, and I like it. So you read Habakkuk 1, 5 through 11, and then you read this one page about it, or a page and a half, and then you answer 3 questions about it, and that's it. And so I've been working through this. I've never studied the book of Habakkuk or really even knew much about it. It is really an uplifting book. It is so for our times. Yeah, I'm really enjoying the book, and it's only 3 verses long, I believe, only 3, but it is packed full with so much good stuff. Habakkuk, he's sees all this destruction and sin and chaos and bad things happening, and Habakkuk's God, why are you letting this happen? How can you allow this to happen? I'm seeing people hurting each other and just innocent people being harmed, and how can you allow this to happen? And God says, I'm not going to allow this to happen for long. I'm having this country, was it the Babylonians, I think? I'm having this people group who was an even worse people group than the Jews at the time. And he's I'm having them come to basically discipline you. And Habakkuk's how can you let them discipline us? They're even worse than our country is. And so yeah, it's just Habakkuk and God talking back and forth, and God uses people for his plans that aren't godly people, but they're for his purpose, and it's just amazing book. So yeah, that's the book of the Bible that I'm reading right now. Okay, next. I got this book from my library because it was $2 on sale, and I saw it in Myers and stuff like that for 20. So I was hey, I'm gonna grab this. It's the Mothers and Daughters of the Bible Speak. Let's see, Shannon Bream is the author, and it's Fox News is endorsing this book, I guess. So I was really disappointed with this book, I gotta tell ya. Okay. So this is how much I've read. So it's page 16, I think. And it is just going over the story of Joseph. Yeah, it starts with Joseph. And then it starts talking about, eventually we'll talk about, I think it's, yeah, Moses's mother and his sister. So it's like it starts with Joseph, and then it tells the whole story of Joseph, and then Moses, and then Moses's mother, and it's like very lengthy about Joseph and Moses and everyone in between, if there's people in between. Maybe not. But anyways, it is just a retelling of the Bible. Like, I know these Bible stories. Now, if I was someone who didn't know the Bible, then yeah, I'd recommend this book. That would be a great book for someone who's never read the Bible before. But most Christians know the story of Joseph and Moses, and yeah, I just feel like she took the Bible and just summarized it in this book. That's what I've seen so far. Now, granted, I haven't read very much of it, but it's like I don't even want to read more because I already know the story. So, just frustrating. I wish it would have just focused on the mother. Yeah, I'm almost on page 20 and I still haven't gotten to the mothers and the daughters of the Bible yet. Okay, next. This book right here. I have seen this book. I haven't seen this book out. I don't know. I just seen this book all over BookTube. It's called The Door in the Wall, and I just thought that would sound really interesting. It's an older. No, it's not. It's not too old. Like, let me see. I think it's written in the 80s, maybe. It doesn't say. But it's a children's book. And, yeah. Oh, here it is. Okay. No, it is a little bit older. 1949. Okay. So, I've seen this book and so many stickers on it. A lot of videos, and I was just like interested in it. The first part of the book has a Bible verse. So, and it talks about God in this book. So, basically, this boy is, he's kind of like abandoned by his parents, and they live in a wealthy home, and it's set in the Middle Ages again. I really like books set in the Middle Ages, apparently. But this boy, he is in this wealthy home, and his father goes and is in a war or something like that for the king. And so his father's gone. Then his mother is like, I'm trying to think how this happened. His mother's like, I gotta go work in service for the queen. And you are of age. He was like 13 or something like that. She's like, you are of age to be a man. And so I am going to now let this person take care of you and, bring you up the rest of the way. So she leaves. So he's left alone. Well, the boy the next day, gets sick. He basically cannot walk. And he's, just stuck in his bed. And so his mom and dad are gone. All his servants are, gone because the plague is really bad in that town. And so there's only, one servant left in the house that he's living in. So the servant is helping him, and then eventually they bring along, I believe it's, the priest or whatever, a friar. He comes to help the boy, and the boy is, he basically is sad by his circumstances, and he doesn't understand why God has allowed this to happen. And so the friar, I believe it's the friar, says to him, like, you always need to look for the door in the wall. And so, and for me, I thought like the door on the wall was like a magical door in the wall. But anyways, it's like a metaphorical door in the wall. So it's always looking for like, okay, well, he's in bed and he can't do anything, but the friar comes in, and I don't know if it's a friar, so forgive me if it's not the friar, but the friar comes in and shows him how to like whittle wood. And so he gets so good that he can like start whittling wood toys for like the boys and girls in town and stuff like that. And so there's always an advantage like to your circumstances. Just because you can't walk doesn't mean that you need to just, you know, just die basically, but still be alive but die. And so the friar's trying to teach him that there's always a door in the wall. Like there's a wall and God puts a door there for you to be able to go through. So I like that. I'm close to halfway down this book, I think. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting book. Real short. And I lost my bookmark. Just real what am I trying to say? Real short and sweet, but yet I think it's a great point. It like teaches you that just because you have horrible circumstances around you doesn't mean that you need to just dig a hole and go away in it. Like there's still work for you. There's still things that God has planned for you, no matter what your circumstances are. So, good book. My next book is, okay, I really like this book. Read by Ted Dekker, and it's his graphic novel. Okay, so I read the first one. This is the second one. I should probably go get the first one. Hold on. Okay, so I got the first two books of the Ted Dekker series of the Circle Trilogy. I believe was what's called the Circle Trilogy. So this is the first one. It's called Black, and this is the second one. It's called Red, and it is pretty good. Okay, so Ted Dekker is a Christian author. I love his stuff. Most of his stuff. I would say like he's one of my favorites. So he has these books in, full novel forms. They're pretty big though, and I just really wanted like the main point of the story. So that's why I got these small little things so that I could just get the main gist of the story. So, in Black, I don't even know how to explain it. So he is in like the real world, and he goes into a sleep, and he goes into another world, and he in this world is almost kind of like Eden, like when the world first began. Like evil is still there, but it's like not in the garden. Okay, so then something bad happens. What happens? Something bad happens that basically brings evil like past the borders of this, safe land, kind of like Eden. So once that happens, I think someone eats the fruit. I think that's basically what happens. So once that happens, then they come past the borders of the protected town that these people are in, and then so evil's everywhere now. It's like within everything, like our world today. And this book stops. So this book stops where is so good. This boy, and he's supposed to be Jesus, and then there's like all these like white lions I think those are supposed to be like angels or just representative of heavenly hosts. And the boy, you know, he starts crying because sin had entered the world. And then from there, what happens? Like, he has to Ted Decker, sorry. He has to try to, like, protect the people that are with him. Like, it's like this woman, like, that's kind of betrothed to him, and I think her not son, but her brother is with him. So he has to protect this woman and her brother. So then that's the end, because like evil's coming and they're about ready to die, and then like a Jesus figure standing there, like he's very sorry that all this stuff happened in their like town that they were in. So then here comes the next book, Red. And is that him? Yeah, that's him. That's his. I was thinking that was the woman for a second because she had long hair. But so he is here to defeat evil now, and they're fighting, and there's war, and there's like all this stuff happening because now evil has entered the world, and they're fighting these people called the I forget what they're called. Like they're like their skin, there's something wrong with their skin, like it's all dried and cracked, kind of like dried and cracked sand. So those are the evil people that they're fighting. And so anyways, it's really interesting. I love allegories that like on some level, not every single level, but on some level like hit some kind of principle or teaching in the Bible. Love that. So I'll probably be getting the third and the fourth one, but I got these two so far. Really great graphic novels there. And I haven't finished reading the second one yet. I'm like just a couple, maybe 10 pages in. So really good though. Excited about it. The next book that I wanted to show, I'll show some graphic novels because my daughter. So I'm like, hey, I'm gonna do a book video and stuff like that. So try to let me do it. And so my daughter was like, oh, I got some books you can do, Mom. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. I have enough books. Like, but she really wants me to do these books, so I'll do them for her. So the two are the Power Bible, which is actually really cute. It's so cute. So it just goes through the Bible, telling the story of the Bible. This starts in Genesis. Just super cute figures, and it very like anime-esque, I guess. Yeah, it's super cute, and my kids like to read it. So I would recommend it. And then they have other ones, like this is the first one, from creation to the story of Joseph. So they have other ones, of course, but I'm not sure how far it goes up. But it's really cute book. Then the other one is the Brick Bible, which is, starts with the L. But the same thing, starts with the New Testament. And this one goes to, I don't know, King David about, maybe. So just has little pictures of the stories that they're talking about. It's super cute. Yeah, great kid books. Anything that you can get for your kids that teaches them about Jesus and the Bible and stuff like that, that's cute and fun, and like highly recommend it. So my kids have a few of these kind of books. Okay, the next one I am reading is Manga Messiah, and I'm like halfway through about. This is pretty cool. I like this. Very manga-esque, except for you don't read it backwards. But yeah, I like it. It's just telling the story of from Jesus's birth. I believe it goes to his resurrection. So yeah, really just good books for kids, for teenagers, for class, like if you're teaching a Bible class, good books. Okay, next. So I mentioned that we went to the Creation Museum a few weeks ago. We've been to the Creation Museum like 5 years ago. This is the first time we went to the Ark. Super cool. It's so huge. It felt like there's probably when we were there like 3,000 people, probably more than that. But they're all fitting the Ark, so it's just really neat. Then you get to, as you're walking through the Ark, you get to stop and see like how, let's see here, there's just little sections where you stop and you look and you go into a little room, and it talks about like the Ice Age, and it talks about how they could have fed all these animals, and it talks about how many actually animals were on the Ark, and it talks about the story of Jesus, and the whole lower level is like just filled with food and crates with animals in it. It shows how they could have taken care of their poop, and it shows how they could have taken care of their feeding, and just all the things that aren't, like, people say are impossible. Like, no, they were possible, and they could have done it with the technology that they had back then. So, yeah, I just thought it was super interesting. I liked it a lot, and my kids liked it. We had fun. I have, the youngest is 6, and so we didn't get to read everything, of course, because we had the little ones, but we got to read enough, and I think that really just having the kids there and having them be able to see, like, this is what Noah's Ark could have looked like, and how big it is, and how possible this, people like to say it's a fairy tale, how possible this fairy tale actually could have happened, did happen. So, anyways, I got 3 DVDs at the bookstore. I went kind of crazy there. Okay, so this one's on suffering. Embrace, I guess. So it's suffering. Yeah, and it just talks about how to deal with suffering and all that kind of stuff. This one is The Tower of Babylon. Can the story be trusted today? And I love the story of Babel. Not Babel, the story of Babylon. The story of Babel. I love the story of Babel. I feel like it's like such a small story in the Bible, and it doesn't really give us a lot of details, but I think it's so interesting. It's neat to me. Okay, so I got that one. And then this one is called The Last Adam, and I think they have this one like playing there at the museum. We didn't get to see it, so I wanted to get it, but yeah, those are the 3 DVDs I got. And you can, if you're interested in any of those, you can go on their website. You don't have to go to the Creation Museum. You can go to their, website and purchase them. And then, okay, I got this little book. It's a pocket guide to the Tower of Babylon. Like I said, I love the story of the Tower of Babel, and I have cool pictures in them. And yeah, just really interested. So I might use this and this as like a guide to help me like do a class for my teenagers that I teach on Sunday morning. So yeah, I might be doing that. Then what I have next here is, this was just really cheap. It says begin the journey through scriptures for seekers and new believers, and it's kind of just a journal and asks questions, and you just go from, you read a chapter or a verse in the Bible, and then they ask you questions about it, and there's a bunch of writing available. And I just thought this would also be a really good book for my students in my class. Just to start from the beginning and move forward. So yeah, just a really simple book, and it was really cheap. It was like $3 or something like that. Okay, the next one I got was Awesome Facts About Animals, and my kids like really like the fact type books, like the, is it Believe It or Not? I don't know. It's like something like that. But they like this kind of books. So these ones right here just tell about different animals, species, and facts of them. And then, like that, relate that back to Jesus. We actually got to see a snake like that when we were there. It was crazy. I don't know if that's the same one, but it looked like that. Anyways, they just talk about, different kind of animals, and my kids love that kind of thing. So I got that for them. It's called Awesome Facts About Animals. And then, Dinosaurs for Kids. And I have a little boy, he's 8, and he's such a little boy, and so like he loves dinosaurs and all that kind of stuff. So I just thought this would be a really neat thing to do for like his Bible class sometime, to work through like dinosaurs and like how they were how we know that they were in the Bible. Here's a dinosaur inside of a dinosaur egg right there. So yeah, just use that to help. And then this one right here is called Dragons, and it's kind of along the lines of dinosaurs, where hundreds of years ago they didn't call dinosaurs dinosaurs, they called dinosaurs dragons, and how we can like stories about dragons. People nowadays think like, oh, those are just myths, they're not true stories. Well, maybe some of them are myths, but or parts of them are myths, but that's also the word that they used for dinosaurs back then. They didn't have a word for dinosaurs back then, so that's what they called them, was dragons. So yeah, it's kind of like one of those type of books that you get to all kinds of little pullouts and little booklets inside of booklets and stuff like that. And this is kind of cool right here. The first page, there's little notes, and you get to open this up, and talks about dragons and where is this at? In Babylon. So there's a little paper that you pull out that you can read about dragons in Babylon, and they show cave paintings of dinosaurs and jars with dinosaurs painted or dragons painted on them, and here's a pterodactyl. So yeah, just really cool pull and, I don't know what you call it, pull and look book, I guess. So yeah, dragons. And like I said, I'm sure you can get those from their website. That is it though. I told you I had a lot of books. So yeah, comment on any books that you thought looked interesting, or some that you haven't seen before, or if you have any questions about them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.